We're all familiar with the story of the Princess of Wales, a disastrous marriage, private matters made public, a determined woman refusing to be silent. But the Princess Flora Fraser writes about reigned 200 years ago. Despite the efforts of George IV to divorce her, she would become known as Queen Caroline. She would also be known for being at the center of one of the greatest scandals in British royal history. The Unruly Queen is the title of the biography that details the life of this incredible woman. Flora Fraser is from a long line of historical biographers, and it's a pleasure to have her here. Welcome.
Thanks,
Great to see you again. Now, tell me why you wrote this, because everybody makes the point that I just made in this introduction, the notion of scandal and discord in the monarchy.
Well, I wrote it because my editor, Robert Gottlieb,
yeah, pretty good editor, yeah.
He rang me up from New York in 1987 after I'd just finished a biography of Emma Hamilton.
Right.
And he said, Flora, Queen Caroline, that's your book. And I said, you're right, Bob, it is my book. And he rang off, and I went to the Dictionary of National Biography to find out who Queen Caroline was.
she might be in my book, but first I better know her.
Yes. And Bob, who is a distinguished editor, was right that it is the most extraordinary story. And I tried telling people in 1987 what an amazing story this was.
What is the story that makes it amazing?
It's a woman, a woman who comes from Germany into the Hanoverian royal family. George III, who features in The Madness of George III, her father-in-law, this extraordinary man, the Prince of Wales, her husband, who is a man of the most fantastic taste, who built Brighton Pavilion, my favourite building in England, and behaves with appalling selfishness towards everyone in his family, and especially towards this bride. And you really feel that she is going to go under because of her treatment when she comes to be his bride. And she rallies and conducts a war with him for 25 years, in which they never actually get divorced, which is his wish, because she outmaneuvers him. Because what has she got to go to, this bride from Brunswick, if she ceases to be Princess of Wales?
As you were writing this, I mean, you were thinking about the present situation and the parallels to it?
Not to begin with. In fact, when I began in 1987, the Duke and Duchess of York had got married the year before. The royal family was as far as...
Is that the woman that we know as Fergie?
She is the woman that we know her in England as Fergie too. But I'd like to start on a formal note. Okay, so... And I began work in the Royal Archives on the Queen Caroline papers, which the Queen granted me access to. I had no idea that either there were going to be so many papers, which was 29 solicitors' boxes of papers unpublished in French, Italian, German. I couldn't read the German, so I left them out, and English. And as I read my way through these papers, the events in the royal family of today began to replicate what I was reading in these papers. And I dismissed it for a time, because I was, if you like, one of the few people who knew of these parallels, which, when this book, The Unruly Queen, was published, I suppose because they're collected, well, this is a book about an 18th and 19th century princess and queen, and the parallels just are glaring, everyone agrees.
Do you know the principals in the present marriage or present divorce? I mean, do you know Prince Charles and do you know Diana?
No, I mean, I don't know either of them, so I know them, so I only know what is available in the newspapers.
Has the public made one of them, do they prefer one to the other in terms of taking sides?
Yes, they prefer, as they preferred in the case of Queen Caroline and George IV, they prefer the princess.
That's what I thought. Why is that in the present situation, before we come back to Caroline?
In the present situation, it's because there is a double standard at work here, in which the Princess of Wales, Lady Di, as we also know her, is going to lose her position, possibly be stripped of or resign her style of Her Royal Highness. Now, in a modern marriage, if no one is guilty in England of adultery, it's, you know, you choose to divorce, and they, like many people, have chosen to divorce.
And they both acknowledge adultery, don't they?
And they have both acknowledged adultery on TV. And this, I think, is the unfairness that the Princess of Wales should be degraded, if you like, which is what will happen. She will be degraded. The Prince of Wales will remain His Royal Highness and will become king. And I think that this is always the problem with the monarchy, is that the person who marries into the monarchy, if they don't remain within it, and if they don't choose to live within it, suffers.
We can only assume that the Queen Mother, and perhaps with the Queen Mother, and perhaps with Princess Margaret, because I understand now that the three of them are pretty close and talk a lot, that they finally said enough is enough is enough. I've read enough. Yes?
Well, I think that nowadays, when marriages break down, I think there's no demand on the part of the public, if you like, for the pretenses and the fronts that used to be required. It was required that people, however unhappily married, should remain publicly together. Now, it's not, I think, because of tabloid intrusion and the excesses, as it's called, of the media. I think it's because we now we all recognise, that if people are unhappily married, sometimes there comes a point when reconciliation is impossible.
What's interesting about Queen Caroline is the fact that you take the scene of coming back to the coronation. I mean, there was spirit and feistiness and a sense of, wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
she's a woman of fantastic guts.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that
and
is
willpower.
And willpower. Yeah. And she faced odds which, at the time, I mean, we can feel sympathy for Lady Di, the Princess of Wales, in her plight, which I think is a plight. But this woman took on an establishment, and she just ripped through it. And I find that very exciting, however wrong-headed she
You
sometimes
think,
was.
finally, going back from one monarchy to another, that you know that whether Lady Di has read this book or not?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting, it's royal history, and
I suspect she should and would. The Unruly Queen, the life of Queen Caroline, who stayed in the marriage because of her daughter Charlotte. What happened to Charlotte?
Charlotte died in childbirth, thus paving the way for Queen Victoria to inherit.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
David. The book again, The Unruly Queen, the life of Queen Caroline, showing that history does, in fact, repeat itself. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.